You're listening to Tatiana is Everyone, an Orphan Black podcast. My name is Chris. This episode is the pre-season 5 Orphan Black podcaster roundtable discussion. Many thanks to Mark for setting this up and letting us use his recording. Just as sort of a heads up for what we're going to be doing this season, fortunately episodes are airing on Saturday again, which is good for us, which means we can record our episodes on Sundays. So hopefully we should have episodes posted by the end of the day on Monday. Please don't hold us to that. Stuff happens sometimes, but we're going to try to get episodes up on Monday. And before we start the actual roundtable discussion, I want to play this voice message that we got from Fred that he recorded at the end of season 4.
Hi Mark, Chris and Stephanie and any other podcasters. This is Fred from the Netherlands. Today is the 18th of June and I just saw the Orphan Black Season 4 finale yesterday. During the season I listened to 3 Orphan Black podcasts, the Orphan Black podcast by Mark, Tatiana is Everyone by Chris and Stephanie, and the Clone Cast. And to survive the 42 weeks of hiatus, I listened in retrospect to the Clone Club by Perry and Merrill, the Clone Dance Party by Bob, Janice, Liz and Lynette, the C Word by Corey, Steve and Terry, and the 324B21 by Sean and Kimberly. I think during the roundtable session, the bunch of you will have a lot to talk about, what all happened in Season 4, and there will be probably no space for listener feedback, but perhaps you have some space for listener predictions. I will keep it short. Who will we see in Season 5? Shay. No. Now Cosima has Delphine back, we won't need Shay anymore. Cal. Yes, we need him for a happy family ending. Sarah, Kira, Cal. Marion Bowles. Yes. Mark can tell you why I think that. Tony. Tony, we won't see Tony, only if there will be a kind of all-clone finale. Dr. Cody. No, she died of lung cancer. Bonnie. No. Adele. Yes, she will be introduced properly to Clone Club. MK. Yes. Perhaps, however, she will die. An extra caster clone. Yes. It was somewhere said that there were at least 6 caster clones. They were Mark, Seth, Rudy, Miller and Parsons. If Ira is the 6th one, that could be it. But if the 6th one is a military one, then we still miss one. Mark and Gracie. No, unless Ira has the urge to meet one of his brothers. Helena's babies. Yes. Of which one she will keep herself and the other one she will give to Allison for adoption. Genetically, it would be a real daughter to Allison or son. More Lida clones. Yes. Kira said there are many more, and if Neolution wants to experiment on a combination of clone plus bot, they will need some. Rachel. Rachel will become the head of Neolution and change it at the end in something positive. Or she will remain the big evil and will die, possibly together with Ferdinand. And last but not least, Westmoreland. Yes, I think there are 2. The one that Rachel will meet and the old one on the island. That's also the reason why he is staying in the woods and not in the house he once built. I wish you all the best in the hiatus. Greetings, Fred.
Thanks for sending that in, Fred. And without further ado, here is our podcaster roundtable.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Orphan Black Podcasters Roundtable. As we get ready for the final season of Orphan Black, we're going to kind of touch a little bit on what happened near the end maybe of last season and look ahead to the final one. My name is Kevin Batchelder from tuningitosci-fi-tv.com, and I'll be your moderator, cat herder, trying to keep all these smart folks in line as we got a lot of great opinions from several folks here. So hopefully you've been able to listen to some of our previous roundtables because they're a lot of fun, but if not, we'll let them introduce themselves so you can learn who we have.
Hi, I'm Mark DeCote from the Orphan Black podcast at solotalkmedia.com.
And I am Karen Lindsay. I co-host along with Steve Salyer Felix's Helixes for Southgate Media Group.
I'm Chris Kwan. I co-host Tatiana Is Everyone with my friend Stephanie, who is not here.
I'm Sean Fangirl S. from 324B21, the Orphan Black podcast, and I co-host with Kim, who has been here several times, apparently.
And I'm Terry Burge, and I co-host the C Word podcast along with Steve Salyer and Corey Metcalf.
Excellent. So we've got quite the panel here, and we're going to have quite the fun talking about several topics. So it'll kind of be in a roundtable format. For the most part, we're going to be looking ahead. No specific spoilers now, folks, but we certainly are going to talk about what folks might want to see, what they hope to see, maybe what we've heard a little bit of rumor we might see, things like that. So hopefully we're not going to spoil you specifically, but we are going to, for the most part, look ahead at the final season. But before we kind of do that, we should kind of get ourselves all on the same page. So maybe we'll touch just a little bit to start talking a little bit about season 4, in the sense of maybe for you as a podcaster or as a fan, where you thought we're kind of jumping off from. You're surprised, anticipated where we were going to be, maybe some quick thoughts on that end, especially of season 4. Let's start things off with Chris.
I really, really enjoyed season 4. I thought it was sort of a nice return to the beginning of the story by circling around to Beth. But man, by the end of the season, I am nervous about season 5 because it left everybody in a pretty precarious position.
It was really, oh gosh, I don't even know how to put this into words. Like, I was really enjoying it, and I was excited and upset and freaking out. Is the best way to put it, because there's so much information that we were getting in this little amount of time, and I don't know where they're going with it, because I feel like we got a whole lot more than we wanted. And I know I just sound like I'm repeating myself right now, because I want to work with the clones that we have. And so the fact that they're bringing in more information, and the fact that there might be all these other ones and this huge backstory, I don't know how they're going to wrap everything up in a really neat bow for us.
Yeah, I enjoyed season 4 immensely. I mean, we had this whole mystery about who Beth Childs was, and we got some of that story as Sarah was acting as Beth and began working with Art. All of a sudden now she was a detective. She didn't just see a gruesome murder and swipes a purse and tries to take over a life. Now she's in this entirely unfamiliar zone. And so this whole character of Beth has been kind of almost mythological in a sense. And the fact that they wrapped around and they gave us that backstory, for me, helps to flesh out not only the character, but the whole world of Orphan Black as a whole package. So I really enjoyed it, and it made it bring the whole thing even better forward as we get ready for the next season.
Yeah, what I liked about season 4 is we got to see, in the previous seasons, our clones were, for the most part, working together. In season 4, we saw them almost all working individually. And we got Sarah and her family for a part of it off in overseas in England. And then we got Allison doing her things. And I love the fact that Helena and Allison really bonded in season 4, because that's something we hadn't seen. Helena and Sarah were the ones that were always together. They were the true sisters, those two, or sistras, sorry. But it was amazing to see Helena and the Hendrixes bonding, and I think that brought a lot of comedic relief and just the whole family feel to the show. And then we got the Cosima and her side. So I love the fact that there were so many little individual stories, but everything was kind of interconnected. Where in the previous seasons, we knew there was a lot of stories, but we weren't really seeing them. We just knew they were out there, and we were trying to figure out the connections. Now we're getting to the point where all these different stories are, we're seeing what those connections are and how everything is going to come together, and hopefully get a good resolution by the end of this final season coming up.
You like when Helena go to save Donnie Hendrix? Okay. So I got really excited when season 4 started, because one of the things that excites me when a show starts a new season is when they have a fresh take on things. And that's what season 4 did. It started up with this fresh new look where it kind of, went back and showed us how Beth, what happened before the show started. And it gave us this interesting new look at Beth and Art. Art, who has always been kind of this character that was in the background, but I really liked him because he was always on our team, no matter what, even when weird stuff was happening. And it kind of explained why now. But it gave us this look into what had happened then, and that gives us more insight into what's happening now as well. And then that also gave us Mika, and it gave us some other stuff. And so it not only did that insight of what happened before the show started help us learn about that time period, but it gave us more insight into what's happening now in the quote unquote present day. So I really enjoyed that it did that flashbacky thing, not to mention the fact that we got to see Paul again. So, right. I need my cougar sound effect. So I thought it was a really novel, interesting, fresh way to look at the show. And when it started, I was very, very excited. And I think it kept up the tension level throughout the season. And yeah, I agree with you, Chris. It was precarious at the end, but it wasn't so much that I was like dangling, like, oh, it has to start tomorrow. I had other things to do in the meantime. So I'm excited now because it's so soon. And I really want to see what happens, obviously. But it wasn't one of those things where it was like, who lives, who dies? It's kind of it was a simmer in the background. And I'm glad everything's going to get wrapped up nicely. They know they have an ending. So I'm really excited to see where we go from here.
Yeah, I think as all of you touched on, once you get a show this far into its life and this close to the end, it's a more of an emotional hit, I think, for a lot of us than the fascination of a first season finale. So, it's the investment and it's also the emotional side of seeing that happen. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be there. Well, Karen, you brought it up, so I guess we kind of should go there. If we look ahead to season 5, is definitely the who will live and who will die question or guesswork. And maybe, Sean, you want to start off some thoughts on that?
Like I was saying, there's so many clones that kind of popped in for 1 or 2 episodes and they're gone. And now we had just mentions by, the parents that we never knew of these other clones. And we had Helsinki. And I don't know. I feel like we have to have our main cast live. But if we do that, I don't know if we'd actually all be happy with that. I don't know, because do you think that the babies are going to survive and we're going to have Helena? And I want them all to survive. Let me just say that. I just want everybody to live, but I feel like that's kind of poo-pooing on the whole, show, really.
Well, I think that there's been this ominous feeling that's been mentioned at the end of season 4, that everybody was really in a tight spot. And I just have this feeling that because they teased it so much with Cosima going from season 3 to 4, that if they have one of the main clones, one of the main Sestras die, and I personally don't want to see any of them die. I really want to see that dream that Helena had where she was having her little baby shower and all the clones were gathered in the backyard and they were having a cookout, and Cosima was dressed up in some kind of Hungarian nursemaid garb or whatever.
Lederhosen.
Well, whatever she did with her hosen later is none of my business. But I want to see that kind of ending. It would probably be, people will say it's hokey, but my feeling is that if they're going to have one of the main clones die, I have a feeling it will not be Cosima because she seems the most likely if it's got to happen, that's who it has to happen to. I think they're going to throw us a curveball, if they're going to throw us one at all. I hope none of them, but I think that it would probably be a clone other than Cosima. To me, she just seems a little too obvious because of how sick she's been. So
I agree with you there, Terry. We've been on the will Cosima live, will Cosima die wagon for so long now that I don't think they're going to end up killing her. Now, no. I personally would not be surprised to see Helena die, because I can see her sacrificing herself for her sisters, for Allison, for Sarah, for Cosima, or for anybody else. Because also, you got to think, if this season is coming to a positive end for the clones and they are all going to, quote unquote, live happily ever after, Helena's the one that really is going to have a hard time and trying to fit into that world. I don't think she can ever have a happily ever after. So in my mind, she would be the person, or one of the clones. She would be one of the clones that I can see sacrificing herself in order to save her sisters. Now, if we're not looking at clones, I can say the exact same thing about Mrs. S. I could see her for whatever comes up. She would sacrifice herself for Sarah, for Kira, for Felix, if it comes to that. And at this point, she might end up doing it for the other Allison and Cosima, and maybe even Helena as well. So I wouldn't be surprised with Mrs. S, the way she's been shown to us and her background, and she might be somebody that might not last through the whole season. But other than that, I would be really sorry to see her go. I really like her, but I can see the writers, if they have to pick somebody, because other people like Art, it would be shocking, but I don't see the value in that. Donnie, I don't see him dying. Looking at some of the other secondary and tertiary characters, I don't know. Like, who knows if we end up getting, Mark and Grace back, whether Mark dies or Gracie dies or whatever. Those, they don't really matter to me so much. But of the main crew, I think, as I said, Helena and Mrs. S would be my two.
I just want to piggyback just real quick on what you said, Mark. It just made me think as you were talking that maybe if she dies, and I agree that she would give herself up for her sisters, that maybe it's not so much in a fight, but maybe she dies in childbirth.
Could be.
She has her twins, and then she dies while giving birth to them or something like that, where it doesn't have to be a fight. And she's probably going to lie there going, I can't believe I'm not fighting and I'm dying, something like that. So,
right. Or they find out that maybe her babies hold the key to curing.
Yeah.
And so she ends up having the babies despite being in distress, and in order to help find a cure and that sort of thing. I can also see Rachel going, which isn't a big deal to me because she is the worst. I'm sorry. She's just psycho. Charlotte. There's Charlotte as well.
Oh, yes.
We can't discount her. She is also a Lita clone. We know that she is ill as well.
Yep.
So either if she gets a cure, Cosima gets a cure, most likely. If Cosima gets a cure and she doesn't, we'd have to find out the circumstances behind that, because aren't they there together on the island?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that would be an interesting twist. And there's Crystal as well. So Crystal could get herself into all kinds of shenanigans.
But she'll find a way out.
Yeah. But otherwise, I kind of agree with you guys. I don't think Cosima is going to die. I think that I don't think it's a red herring. I think they've been working towards this. So, I mean, I think it's just obvious that she's going to live at this point. So I just don't think it's her. I don't think it's Sarah. Sarah's our protagonist. And we're living through her, essentially. I don't think Felix, even though she's not a clone, I don't think he is not a clone.
You were right. Yeah.
I don't think he identifies male.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll see the end of him. I could see Siobhan perhaps dying. I don't want that to happen because we just lost her mother in the last season, Kendall. But
what about Delphine?
No, see, Cosima just got Delphine back, so I would hate to see them parted again. I think that she's back for good, to be honest. The audience wouldn't want to see that again. And I think the Orphan Black powers that be knows what's good for them at this point. They heard.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to stay together if Cosima lives, that is.
Mhm.
Cosima would be the one that goes in that couple if one of them has to go. But I think the tertiary ones that would go would maybe be, Cal might go. I don't know if he is part of the bad guy contingency. I don't think he is. Whether he's Westmoreland or not. Spoiler alert. Mark, you and I you said that earlier. I'm stealing it. But yeah. I think he's a good guy, but he might end up on the chopping block as well. Mika as well, who knows? Because she gets into lots of issues. So, I mean, there's a lot of possibilities for who might bite it this season.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's going to be some carnage because it's the last season. They can do what they want now.
Anybody who listens to any podcast I'm on knows that I am thoroughly against this idea that somebody has to die. I think that idea is dumb, quite frankly.
It's true, it's dumb, but that's what shows do, though, now,
I know, and I think that in and of itself is dumb because they're like, we need to do it for shock value. It's not shock value if every show does it all the time.
Right.
But anyway, and as you'll recall, at the end of season 4, Cosima has found the cure ostensibly. So yeah, I really don't think that's going to happen. I agree with you, Karen. If a clone has to die, I suspect it would be Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least I would hope it would be Rachel, because if anybody has it coming
to her,
it's Rachel.
Yes.
She has it coming. Something bad will happen to her, and I will say deserved it.
Right, karma.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like anybody needs to die, and I will be very upset if one of the main characters does die.
Yeah, I wouldn't be happy if one of the characters we love dies.
Yeah,
I would understand if they did that because that's how showrunners work. And again, it's just TV. So there's that. Tatiana is breathing, alive and well, and all that. So.
Well, I think personally, if that does happen, my guess is that it would be fairly early to kind of create that, as you kind of put it, Chris, in today's TV world, create that tension level by having lost someone. So I'm my own self, my fingers are crossed that if we get through a few eps without losing someone, I think that increases our chances of not. But that's just
I don't know.
There.
We're right near the end of Gotham, and we just lost the whole Court of Owls. So, spoiler alert.
No, we're
man.
doing cross-platform spoilers. Here we go.
Right.
Well, another thing
edit as you see fit, folks.
Another thing they did in season 4, though, is with the conversation Rachel has with the board, they set it up so that they can introduce all these other side clones that we possibly haven't seen before and just do horrible, horrible things to them.
Right.
And that's in keeping with the pattern of the show, too.
That would be meaningless, though, right? I mean,
would it, though?
We don't know them, right?
But that's different than being meaningless, because it fits in with the theme of the show.
Right, that's true.
Yeah,
they're meaningful to us by way of being Tatiana.
Right.
But they already debated whether or not to let Charlotte live or die. Let her die, and the information's like super valuable. So if they're willing to do that with a child, why not have a board, say all these other clones that are probably, full-grown adults, let them die, or we can do what we want with them now. It's full throttle. So
to corrupt a phrase, the morality. They have no idea what that means. The bright-wearing people or her mother who is bleeding out.
Yep, and there's that part of it as well. I mean, you folks kind of brought it up, so maybe we should now move into that idea of talking about the clones. I mean, are we looking forward to some new ones, or maybe some of the outer fringe folks that have kind of been fairly lesser seen? Do you have some thoughts on where that's going, Terry?
Yeah, I read an article a little while back that supposedly Tatiana will be playing more clones. They didn't say how many in this final season. So I would like to see Mika back. She could be maybe part of some kind of hacking showdown, let's say. Tony, I'd like to see back only because there was so much tug of war with the fans about like the character, didn't like the character, and just have it as a one-off. Could be the producer saying, well, there were a lot of people didn't like it, we'll just leave Tony alone. I'd like to see one more thing with Tony just to give Tony a little more substance to the character. Doesn't even have to be a whole episode, but just bring Tony back. And as far as the new clones, I'm kind of thinking that these new clones might be flashbacks to Helsinki. I'd like to see that. I mean, I enjoyed the flashbacks we had to Beth's backstory this past season. And Helsinki has been mentioned before. And so I'd like to see the other clones that she plays to be some of the Helsinki clones. And maybe even showing as, scenes of them being killed off. I don't think any more clones in present day are really necessary. I think that's just kind of, clouding the field because we've got enough we can handle, even the ones that we've only seen Sarah play once or twice. So that's my feeling, is that I'd like to see Mika back. I could see Tony, and I think any other new clones that supposedly she's going to play would be good for a flashback.
Well, we got to remember that in the final episode of season 4, Kira made a comment where she said something that to the fact that she's worried for all the sisters, especially all the ones that we haven't met yet. So that line right there tells us that there's still a bunch of them out there that we haven't met. Right. So yes, they could do flashbacks, but you got to remember the whole Helsinki thing, although the majority of viewers probably don't know it, the comic books that they put out did cover the Helsinki things. They did do a comic book series for Orphan Black specifically on Helsinki. Now, I expect most of the viewers have not read those comic books, but so I don't know if they will touch on that in the show. But I think just the fact that Kira mentioned that there's so many other sisters that she's worried about that we haven't met. Now, whether they come in and they interact, or if we just hear about them, maybe we'll see them kind of like we saw, what's her name, Jennifer. We saw her by video, and I forget there was another one. Maybe we're just going to see that. We're going to see whoever's now running Brightborn or whatever the next evolution of Brightborn is going to be. Maybe we're going to see stuff that they're doing and the clones are going to have to stop them. So I think we will be seeing more. Whether we get MK, I don't know if there's personally, I don't know if there's any reason to bring MK back. I think what she was brought in to do is done, and then she went into hiding and she was a recluse. So maybe they could find a reason to bring her back, but I would also be okay with not seeing her again, because that would be in her nature to disappear and not pop up again. Tony, I agree with you. If we don't bring Tony back, then it kind of feels to me like it was a token. Let's just bring a transgender in. Let's do it for, just a show. And we showed him, good, he's out of the way. So I would like to see him back just to show that wasn't just a gimmick they did.
Wasn't there something about he had a piece of information he had to pass on or something?
Which he did.
Yeah, but he already did that.
That's right. Okay.
So
I don't know. I think, flesh him out more. Mika, I'd like to see her, if she comes back at all, kind of like Han Solo in the first Star Wars. Like he kind of comes in at the last minute at the battle, and no one's expecting him, and all of a sudden she gets involved. I think that would be cool. So
yeah. And the other one is Crystal. I do hope. I mean, Crystal was a clone that, if anybody's read anything, she was only supposed to be a one and done. She was supposed to die in that first episode she was introduced, but they loved her so much that they kept her around, and I hope that they keep her around for season 5, because I would love to see her interacting with all the clones. I would love to see her meet some of the others that she hasn't met yet, and just just the interaction that we got between her and Sarah. It's like, whatever, she doesn't look anything like me. I'm a 10 and she's a 7 or
7 at best.
Yeah, 7 at best. I mean, I would love to see Crystal and Helena meet. So, I want her back.
Get a comb through that hair?
Could you just picture Crystal giving Helena a makeover?
Oh God!
What are you doing? I do not need all this on my face. That would be hilarious. I would love that. And so many opportunities for me to do impressions.
There you go.
Was that it, Mark? I don't want to interrupt. I would love to see more clones. I don't think they should take up a lot of the season, though, because we need to stick with our core clones and finish their stories. That's just my opinion. I don't mind Tony coming back because I agree with you. I don't think he should have been a token transgender. He should be an actual character. Maybe Tony is showing signs of sickness and needs to come back to talk to them. He heard something about that.
Yeah.
So that could be an opportunity for him to come back and see if there's a cure, something like that. I would love to see new clones in a flashback and a flash forward near the end of the season, maybe. See them.
Another clone dance party.
Living together or something. We know, hopefully, that they're not going to continue the project, so it would just be the ones that are around. Let's hope. Cross the fingers. But, I think new clones would be good. Just let's stick to the main storyline for the most part.
I think season 4 set up bringing in new clones pretty well. There's the whole line about, from imaginary Beth to Sarah, bring your sisters together. And so I think that would actually be a really interesting way for them to conclude the season, possibly, or the series rather, is to pull in these other characters that we haven't even met yet and maybe have them all work together against the Neolutionists or whatever this threat is that they're going to face in this final season. I do think Mika's going to be back. She did come back at the end of last season. They established that she's sick. It seems like she has to come back. I think Tony will come back, or rather, I hope Tony will come back. Again, when they sent him off, it was sort of with this whole idea of, we are going to send you away from this to keep you safe because it's not safe right now. So I'd actually be really happy with it, even if there's just maybe a scene towards the end of the series after they've dealt with whatever it is that they're going to deal with. And maybe, contact Tony and say, hey, it's safe now. You don't have to be in hiding anymore. Maybe Felix can call him up and say, hey, come hang out with your family some more, something
maybe
like that.
Have a kiss.
I'm hoping at minimum we'll see like a flash forward because they'll have had a cure and somehow our little core clones that have survived are like out there trying to inoculate the other ones.
I like that.
That would be good.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah, that would be an interesting take on it, that's for sure.
A lot of different directions to go there. Well, one thing, too, that's been mentioned a couple of times in some of the discussions so far is the whole idea of Westmoreland. So I know this is something a lot of folks have been chatting about, speculating, many other things as well. So, Mark, you want to kind of start us on that crazy topic?
Well, the whole thing is trying to find out. We find out at the end of season 4 that Westmoreland is the father behind all the Neolution and everything that's been going on, as well as the casters and the Litas, and like he's the kingpin or the start of it all. But we also find out that he supposedly is hundreds of years old. I forget how many. Was it just 100 years or over? I don't remember the exact number, but by all intents and purposes, he shouldn't be alive. So that's what a lot of the speculation is on how this person, if it is the same original, or is it a clone of the original, or has he been somehow able to, I don't know, do body transfers and all that. Now, personally, I mentioned this at the end in my final episode of my podcast for season 4. My theory was, and I just want to say that I don't follow any of the other than seeing the trailer. I don't read any of the articles or anything. I want to go into season 5 completely free of any influence. So I haven't looked at any casting info to see if they've cast somebody as Westmoreland or that. But at the end of season 4, what I thought is that Cal, that was my theory, is that Cal's going to come back, because there was so much about Cal that we didn't know, and that was kind of secretive and speculated at. We know that he's had some deals with the military. We know he has a lot of money. We saw in his RV that he had a whole bunch of different fake IDs. And with all of that, I don't know. In my mind, I put 2 and 2 together, and I think that Cal is Westmoreland. Now, I could be completely off kilter with that one, but that was my theory.
That was my theory as well. And I say was.
Uh-oh.
That's all I'm saying. There was some news that came out.
Okay.
But I don't know if I should share it because you don't want to know, right?
Well, you just spilled the beans there, Karen.
I know. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
Without...
Theories are meant to be busted, so It's okay. I'm okay with it.
There was a casting thing. Looks like they actually said something about it in October. That Stephen McHattie was cast as Neolution founder P.T. Westmoreland, Moorland, and he played the original Night Owl, the older version of the Night Owl, in the film adaptation of The Watchmen. Let's see. He was in Pay the Ghost with Nicolas Cage and Sarah Wayne Cowles. He is married. He used to be married to Meg Foster.
Anyways.
The X-Files. Yeah, anyway, you'd recognize him if you saw him.
Okay.
He played Hollis Mason, the first Night Owl in the film adaptation.
So you know who's going to play Westmoreland, but who is Westmoreland?
Right. I do not know that. No. It's just it's not Cal, unfortunately, because I thought that was the coolest guest ever. Because I thought the same thing until I looked up it. I was looking up the clones and I was like, oh, darn it. Why did I have to see that? So, yeah. I'm the worst. I'm sorry.
That's
so
okay. We're all spoiled. It's fine.
Oh.
I'm kidding.
So I had a weird moment rewatching season 4 where I started to really question this idea of him being old, like supernaturally old, because I was like, I wonder if he's just like a con artist. I don't know why I had this thought, but this was the thought I had.
Cal. You mean Cal, right?
No.
P.T. Westmoreland.
Oh.
That's a really good theory, Chris.
It is, actually.
Thank you.
Especially with his first initials being PT.
I mean, this whole thing, Neolution seems to have started maybe in the 70s, maybe. Mm-hmm. So, you know, he doesn't have to be that old for that. I mean, at least the characters that we know of, this branch of Neolution seems to have started then. So I don't know. I'm not saying it's impossible, because it is sci-fi, but the stuff that they've established so far, there's been nothing really that far out. Because this is like some Alias Rambaldi stuff going on here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that they're necessarily going to do that, actually. So, because apparently he wrote the whole idea of Neolution in that room that Rachel was staying in.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm like, that does not look that old.
Right.
For one thing.
You guys chuckle when I say because his initials are PT. I mean it. MK's name is MK after MK Ultra. So I wouldn't put it past the showrunners to name him PT after P.T. Barnum.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. That is my husband's theme song.
There's a sucker born every minute. Wasn't that one of Barnum's lines?
Yep.
Yeah.
It certainly is. So I wouldn't put it past them to give us that as a covert clue.
Anyway, just throwing it out there.
Well, kind of expanding on that, on it, the whole thing being a big con. I mean, it could be a long con. And it could be, I actually took a class on this, where it's like an entire family and it's like generations, they just keep using the same name because you want to keep pushing that image out and make people think that you are like super old and you get them to follow you and eventually support you monetarily and basically listen to anything you have to say. And I cannot remember the name of the town where they're like, and it's not Jonestown because that's a whole different thing, but it's like the entire town, everybody has the same last name and they're all just con artists. So, I mean, it could go along that same line that Chris came up with.
Interesting.
Is that town in Kentucky?
I think it is.
Okay.
Uh-oh. What do you know, Terry?
I was going for a very bad joke, so I'll stop. Are you done?
I'm good. Sorry. Had to throw in that little bit of criminal justice that I remember from my classes.
The thing of whether this is a long con or not, it certainly would play very well on this show. God knows, you got enough people conning everybody and double crosses going into quadruple crosses. I'm just imagining if Orphan Black was on back in the 70s and to have somebody supposedly over 100 years old would seem uber fantastical. That's not so uber fantastical now in the 21st century. So I don't know if it's necessary, if Westmoreland is the same person who created Neolution and did the whole thing. I don't think it's such a far-fetched thing for Westmoreland to just naturally have lived past 100 years of age. I think they said over 100. I don't think they said 200 or a higher number. If the number was 200 or higher, then you're going to get into some sci-fi stuff. But to have Westmoreland over 100, I don't think requires Neolution and making yourself into like half human, half robot. And as far as Neolution itself, I mean, Leakey, was supposedly this big guy, and we later found out in either season 2 or 3 that Rachel considered him really just a front man. He was kind of the PR person because he was a scientist, and, he didn't have a problem, doing interviews or talking about it as little as he did. He was kind of like the public face of the Dyad Institute. I don't know. I would be okay if this is going to be a long con, but if P.T. Westmoreland is an individual that has lived over 100 years, I don't see where something, biological / mechanical is required for that. Not that they couldn't play him like that, but I don't see how that's required. Like I said, if this show was on in the 70s, you'd have to play it that way. Because the number of people you had living over 100 was a heck of a lot less than the numbers, whatever we have nowadays. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Didn't the book say it was written in 18 something?
I thought so.
It was 18 something. Yeah. So it would be over 100 because we haven't hit 20 something or other that would match the 18 something yet. So
I know there's a whole bunch of listeners out there are going, it's this many years.
Yeah. I think they said it was over 100. So to me, again, that's, if you're going 200, then you're going to have tinkering with the body. So
now, one thing we've I think maybe brought up one or two of these names, but I know folks are going to be very interested. Maybe each of you, as we go around, can give a quick answer on maybe one of those side characters that hasn't played a major part, but that you really would like to see back in this final season. Karen, you want to take a first shot at that?
Sure. First of all, I'd like to see Cal back. And again, I need my cougar sound here. Adele really stepped up last season to help out when Donnie went to prison. And so I think she might deserve some time back. The other people mentioned in the document are Shay, Mark, and Gracie. Shay I mean, she's great. I liked her character, but now that we have Delphine back, I think it would be messy to have her back, and we're not in the city anymore as well. And Mark and Gracie, that would be fine as well, but their storylines kind of played out. So out of those, Shay, Cal, Adele, Mark, and Gracie, I would pick Cal and Adele, really. I would love to see both of them back.
I would actually like to see really all of those characters back. I don't expect to see them all back. I think really Mika and Tony would be the most likely ones to come back. They would have the strongest story support to come back. But apparently I like it when people are mad at me. And I'm going to say I would really enjoy it if Shay came back.
I don't disagree with you because I kind of want to see Shay. But I want to see, because unless I've forgotten that this character died off, what happened to Detective Angela DeAngelis?
I love Angie.
She just disappeared.
I can't stand her.
I just want to know what happened.
The worst. She was
like a dog.
She's
with
the
a bone,
greatest.
and then she was gone.
Oh, she's the worst.
Ugh.
The worst.
Vomitorium.
No, she's not dead. She just faded away. Ugh, the worst.
That's what I'm
It's
saying.
on
She
the
was like a
side.
dog with a bone. Somebody needs to tell me what happened.
Let's see. Mark and Gracie, I agree their story is kind of played out. Maybe just a scene in an episode, if they show up, would be fine. Adele, yeah, definitely stepped up her game. Cal, I would like to see only because we got some of his story dangled in front of us. Paul confronted him. I'd like to see more of that. So I think, more of him. Shay, I would definitely like to see back for the reverse of the cougar reason for Cal. But there was the scene where Delphine went to her, gave her the business card for Dyad, and said, go to Cosima and tell her I told it's okay for her to spill the beans to you. And she left. And she flipped the back of the card, and on it was written 324B21. So will she come back and approach Cosima and ask her? That just kind of was left dangling. Why would you have her give that if you're not going to tie that back in somehow? So that'd be my feelings for the side ones.
Well, I'd like to see Sarah Stubbs back.
She was in
Sarah Stubbs.
She was in the 4th season.
I know, and I'd like to see
She
her.
was in the musical.
I want to see her back.
I love Sarah
I love
Stubbs.
that character. No,
She has a great singing voice.
Yeah, she does. I would be curious about Mark and Gracie just because we know that the Castor clones all had something wrong with them, and they were pretty well all had a fuse that was slowly running out. So what happened? Is he okay? Is he dying? So I'd like to get some closure on that. Even if it's just like one episode where we get something and then we just know that either they're going to be okay or they're not. Adele, I would really like to touch more on that. It just seemed it was too convenient for me that all of a sudden out of nowhere, she tracks Felix down. She's his biological sister and not to mention that it was all done through a subsidiary of Brightborn. It was just, there was too many loose ends in my opinion there. I would like to see more about that and more about Felix's backstory, where he came from and if there's any other characters there. And the same thing with Shay. There was so much that was brought up with Shay, her military background and everything that was brought in there. I mean, I would be okay if we didn't get Shay back, but I would really like to see some of that brought to light. Like, what was she brought in there for a purpose, or did she really just run into Cosima, out of the blue and form this relationship? And if by chance something happens to Delphine in the episode, then I would like Shay to be around for Cosima to fall back, have somebody to console her and possibly live happily ever after with Shay. So I wouldn't mind seeing that.
There you go.
And of course, Cal, it was brought up earlier, all his secret identities and all that. We really need to see more about what his background is.
Yep.
And cougar.
Well, speaking of seeing more about something, there is a question we've barely even touched on so far, and that's Kira and her, quote, air quotes, potential powers. So what do you folks think? Are we going to find out more about that, or where do you think that might be going? Chris, you want to take a shot?
I have no idea. I was having these thoughts the other day about this idea of like genetic memory and all this sort of thing, because I have strange thoughts apparently. And I don't know, because we've seen similar things from Helena and a little bit from Sarah. So I don't know where they're going with that. I don't know that we'll ever find out. I'm kind of okay with it if we never find out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, I am like itching to know how she's able to heal so fast and how she hears the sisters or knows what's going on. But I think now that you guys have put out your theories about Westmoreland and possibly Cal, with him being the dad, what if he has some genetic thing, and the fact that him and Sarah had a baby, it just turned into this crazy, almost psychic Carrie level powers.
I don't know if I'd give Cal that much credit.
I would.
I know what Sean, I know what you'd give him. You'd be taking numbers with Karen at the deli counter. I was excited. They were going to supposedly talk a little bit about it at the end of season 3. Then they teased us that we were going to find out in season 4, and they didn't do jack about it, other than her saying all the other sisters, there's so many of them out there. That's the only thing we got about Kira's powers in season 4, and that was one of the points I was really frustrated with, because you've dangled at the end of 2 seasons ago, and then the previous season you were gonna, and you didn't. So I hope that they really give us something, to answer that question. Why has this kid got this kind of extrasensory perception? She can heal quickly. There's a lot there, and I want to find that out. I really, really want to find it, because Kira is a cool character. I dig the girl. I think she's the actress playing her is really good too. So I'm hungry to find out.
I think, first of all, Terry, there was a lot more hints than just that in season 4. There was a lot of times where she seemed to know that something was going to happen right before it happened. Like whenever they were going to storm the house, whatever, I can't remember if the cops or whoever, somebody stormed Mrs. S's house. Kira knew right before, and she said something. And she seemed to know whenever some of the sisters were in trouble. She sensed it. And sometimes she wouldn't say very much, but you saw in various parts of the season that she would have these senses and know things that there's no way she could know. But I have a feeling that Kira is actually going to play a very central part in season 5. Now, I don't know this for sure. I just have a feeling that we're going to see a lot of her. There's going to be a lot more play for Kira, whatever this Westmoreland. Cal's going to be back involved, and there's going to be a lot of, because of Kira, her powers and who she is, I think there's going to be either a battle or a lot of stuff going on centered around her. And I think maybe we won't get all the answers, but I think a lot is going to be revealed in this season about her.
A battle over or about her, I agree, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I heard some indications that she's going to have a bigger part in season 5. So that's good news for me, because I really do like Kira, and I want to know more about her for sure.
All right. Well, I think we're getting close to the end here. So before we go, though, we got a big question for all of you. And, we know from watching the show that they keep outdoing themselves, both with the story, but also some of the ideas of how we can all really identify with things. The dance party, the clone dance party, Elena's dream sequence, the big family dinner. So are you folks giving any thought to, what they might top themselves with next, or, kind of that, and if that's not so much your thought on it, I'd be curious to hear if you had to pick that one thing that you absolutely have to see in this final season, what it might be. Sean, you want to start us off there?
Wow, that's like huge.
Well, you got 2 big ones. I let you pick out of 2.
All right. I think it's going to be really cheesy, and we'll just have a giant, Skype call. And, all of a sudden, you'll just see that there's tons of names of all the clones. And in the middle will just be Sarah's face.
Oh, that's sweet. And it'll just go bloop, 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 and all these other clones will show up on the screen.
How
Wouldn't that be
technologically, emotionally void that is.
All right, Mr. Still waters run deep. You tell me what you think.
If there's still waters, I'm driving around it because I can't swim. I think they are going to try to top themselves. How that's going to play out, it's going to be multiple clones. If, as I said earlier in the show here, if Helena dies, it might be giving birth to her twins. So we wouldn't have that scene, that dream sequence of hers. But maybe just visions of other clones. I don't know about on Skype, but maybe Mika will have it up on a bunch of screens, all these different clones on different continents. Because if they're on American soil and British soil, they've got to be more than likely on other continents. So I think something where we just see either on a video feed or there's just different live in the moment pictures of different clones gathered around in different areas. And, maybe they got a cure for them or something like that. I don't want to see anything cheesy, but I think that they are going to try to, because each thing that they've done with these multiple clones in one final shot, they keep getting better. It takes them forever to do it, but they keep getting better. So that's what I like to see, just seeing all these other clones around the world somehow, some way.
Well, I don't think, I like what you guys are saying, but I think that would be a big step backward. It's so easy to throw people up on screens, even if you have a whole bunch of monitors, and there's really nothing, I'm going to say, technological as from a filming point of view. They've gone,
right.
They did the dance party, then they did Helena's dream where they were all interacting, and then there's the family dinner with everybody sitting around the table. And I think if they're going to do something, it's going to have to be something where a bunch of them are live together. So whether they, at the end, they get a bunch of new clones together and they have a big family reunion, with Allison catering and going around talking to everybody and that, something like that. Or if I go dark, maybe there's going to be a funeral and you're going to see a whole bunch of the clones attending a funeral together. For somebody who it is, I don't know, but maybe that will be the way, there's going to be some sort of funeral for somebody and everybody joins together and we see it, in that sense. So,
I like that.
Yeah. I don't want to go dark like that, but I could see that as being a very touching, and it would still accomplish the same thing of them being able to get Tatiana a whole bunch of times in a shot. But, we've already done the dance party and we've done the funny dream and we did the dinner party. I just think it would be a nice touch, but I don't know. That was just one theory.
We could split the difference maybe. And since most of the clones will most likely have the gene to be getting ill, we could come up with a cure and gather them together in order to inoculate them and let them get together for that reason, and they all meet and get to know each other, and like Felix would initiate them into the clone club together and
tell them how to dress.
Exactly. And Crystal would be there. I cannot believe I'm clones with all of you. I am a 10, definitely. I'd like to see that. I like to see them getting cured.
Yeah.
I'd like that to be the teaching moment at the end of this whole series, is that there's a cure for everything. But I don't know that that's going to be it. I think there might be something after that, but I don't know.
Okay, this is kind of a joke answer, but maybe it's not. Maybe they'll gather together like an army of Lita clones to storm Neolution Island.
Oh, see, that would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I like
right?
that.
Wouldn't that be good?
Yeah.
How Resident Evil of you.
Oh.
In order to take down Sarah. Not Sarah.
Rachel.
I was like, wow, that went
Rachel.
dark.
Yay.
In order to take down Rachel.
Turncoat.
Rachel and P.T. Westmoreland.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So,
I like that.
so like an Orphan Black game of Risk. Or
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Civilization.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Now, do you guys think at the end of season 5, will the world know about clones? Or is season 5 going to end with all the clones knowing about themselves? Like even the other sisters, are they all going to become aware, but nobody else is going to know and they're all going to live their own lives? Or is it going to somehow come out and the world's going to know that humans have been cloned and that there's a bunch around?
I don't think it would benefit the world to know. No.
I was going to say, I don't see how that could be a happy ending.
Mm.
And there's rumors of a potential either 1 or 2 Orphan Black spinoffs I've read about. Whether either if it's one, it or they come to fruition or not, I don't think the article I read said that it was leaning yes or no, but there's talks about maybe doing an Orphan Black spinoff or 2. So that I don't think that it would be, if they actually want to go that way, and if BBC America and Temple Street want to back it up, I don't think you need to have the world know about the clones. Just yet.
It's not in the clones' best interest either.
Not at all.
Okay, but then will the other sisters that are out there that Kira alluded to, will there be clones out there still left in the dark as to that they're clones?
Depends how many so many she can't count that Kira said there are. I mean, it could be 100 over the whole world. It could be thousands, millions around the world. You don't know.
What if they use Mika to track them all down?
I think they might use Kira to track them down.
They would use Kira.
Or Kira.
Yeah.
I feel like they'd have to let the other ones know.
Right. They'd have to find as many of them as they could, hopefully all of them, and let them know.
Yeah.
Anyways, things to ponder.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. That's the whole point in doing the podcast.
Yeah.
That's right.
And we hope those of you listening, have enjoyed that discussion. But we also, just for fun, save this recording, come back in a couple of months and see just how close or just how far off we were.
Just how off we are.
Yeah, I agree. More on how off we were.
Yeah.
You didn't have to tell him that, Kevin.
Listen back and laugh.
Yes.
Yep, that's what we're always willing to do as podcasters. There's a permanent record of what we thought. So
Elena, no sacrifice herself for the Hendrixes.
Very good.
Well, hopefully you folks have had as much fun listening as we've had chatting it up. But before we go, we want to let each of our hosts just mention again where you can find them. I mean, if there was ever a season, because I'm sure if you're listening, you're probably a fan of at least one of these podcasts, but there was ever a season to be listening to multiple Orphan Black podcasts, it's this season. So why don't we let everybody, before we go, reintroduce themselves. Mark?
Yeah, I'm Mark DeCote from Solo Talk Media. The Orphan Black podcast is my show. You can find me at solotalkmedia.com, on Twitter at solotalkmedia, and on Facebook at facebook.com/solotalkmedia.
I'm Karen from Felix's Helixes. You can find us on Facebook at Felix Helixes. It's FELIXATLIXES on Facebook. On Twitter, we are at Felix's Helixes. That's FELIXSHELIXES. And we are Felix's Helixes at gmail.com, spelled the same way.
Maybe you need a new eye like Rachel.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm Chris from Tatiana Is Everyone. You can find us at tatianaiseveryone.com. We're on Twitter at TIE Podcast. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/Tatiana Is Everyone.
I'm Sean from 324B21, the Orphan Black podcast, over on the Nerd Element. You can find us everywhere as the Nerd Element, Facebook, Twitter, the website, and also at fangirlzone.com. Same thing. Everything is Fangirl Zone.
And I'm Terry from the C Word Podcast. You can find us on our website, thecwordpodcast.com. You can find us on Twitter at C Word Podcast, and on Facebook, facebook.com/the C Word Podcast.
Awesome. And I'm Kevin Batchelder. You can find my podcast covering genre TV at tuningintosci-fi-tv.com. And I want to thank Mark for having organized these and letting me moderate the last few years. This has been a lot of fun.
Yay, thanks, Kevin.
Thank you,
You're
Mark.
always the best.
Thank you, Kevin.
We hope you all enjoy, and we hope you all take care.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
So there you have it, our podcaster roundtable. Thanks to everybody who participated in that. Thank you for listening to it. If you have any thoughts about it, please send them to us. You can do that in a number of ways. You can send us an email at feedback@tatianaiseveryone.com. You can record a voice message on your smartphone and email it to that address. You can also call our listener voicemail line at 972-514-7223. You can find us on Twitter at TIE Podcast, on Facebook at facebook.com/TatianaIsEveryone. You can find us on Tumblr at Tatiana Is Everyone Podcast. Tatiana Is Everyone is part of the Ask Genre TV family of podcasts. You can find our other podcasts about Lost Girl, Killjoys, which is starting up again soon. And we also have a sort of catch-all podcast where we change television programs from time to time. We just finished up doing Supergirl. We're about to do Winona Earp at the end of this month. That is called Finalysis. You can find all of those podcasts at our website, askgenretv.com. And in this episode, the Roundtable was played by Tatiana Maslany. Thanks for listening.